You're watching Toronto Sports Rush on the Bet Rivers Network.
It's Dan. Dan Square. Dano Town. Dan, do you like Dano? I still like being called Dano when someone sees me.
I've never been a Dano guy. Honestly, I like Danny. Like family, most family and old friends, I'm Danny to everybody. It's just on TV. I thought if I came on the air and said, "Hi, this is Danny Shulman," I sound like I'm 7 years old. So I guess I'm kind of Dan in front of the camera, but really I'm Danny everywhere else.
And when you're in trouble, it's Daniel.
It's Daniel, yes. I think my mom did that a little bit when I was young. There are two people who have called me Daniel regularly in my life. One is the late, great Jim Hunt, who I worked with for a couple of years back in the formative days of the Fan back in the 90s. He would always call me Daniel. And the other one is the Hall of Fame baseball writer, Bob Elliott, always calls me Daniel, but I think he's kind of formal with everybody. So I don't call him Robert. I call him Bob, but he calls me Daniel.
In the Hawaii 5-0 days, my uncles always got a kick out of calling me Dano because it was Book 'em Dano.
Sure. Yeah, Book 'em Dano.
Classic.
We all go through that.
Dan, thanks for being here. I first had a question unrelated to baseball because I was just in my backyard. I got a problem. There's a skunk rooting around in the grass every single night, digging his nose in. Have you ever run into this problem? If you have, how do I get a skunk from stop sticking his nose in my grass?
That I can't help you with. I will tell you a week ago or 2 weeks ago, maybe, when I was walking my dog, who, if you hear any funny noises, she's right here because she can't be any further away from me when I'm home than that. We turned the corner and about 25 feet away, looking right at us, was a skunk. And I did the only thing I know how to do, quietly turn around and walk the other way. So I'm not the greatest at fixing stuff like that. I'm decent at trying to ask a friend who I should call to help me fix something like that. But ironically, a couple of days ago, we noticed a little hole on our front lawn, and we don't know what caused it. We can't tell. Whatever it is hasn't come back. But yeah, that's not what you want. And the more you investigate, the more you might be asking for trouble.
So, Dan, you kind of sound like me. When I need something simple built, I get someone like a friend or a handyman to build it for me. And my friends are like, "Why don't you do it?" And I always refer to the Simpsons episode where Homer builds a spice rack.
Yeah.
And I say, that's how it would end up. If I built it, it would look like I built it.
Yeah. I'm not good at very many things, but one of the things I'm good at is knowing what I'm not good at. And I think that's actually an important skill in life. If I'm good at something, I'll help you. I'm not sure what I'm good at, but I'll help you. But I think knowing what you're not good at is important. And plus, we're helping out other people in their line of work
that's right.
to get some work. So the first thing I do actually is I call my wife and I say, "Sweetie, we got a problem." And then she's excellent at everything. So I'll ask her what she would do. She might have a better answer for you than I would.
And then the next stop is YouTube. YouTube has a lot of answers.
Oh, absolutely. When we have, when I want to change the timer on the lights, fall and spring, as the day is changing, I have bookmarked on my computer the YouTube video for the specific brand of timer. And I pull one of the kitchen chairs and I sit in front of the light switch at the front door where it is. I couldn't do it without YouTube. It's literally one of like the 4 bookmarks in my life I need to have saved. It's the only way I can do it.
Aside from Google, YouTube is the most visited website in the world.
I believe it. And I'm probably 25%.
Dan, if you weren't a broadcaster, what would you do? If, say, broadcasting off the table with your skills, with your likes and dislikes, what avenue of work would you be in?
As 58-year-old me, or like if I'd never gotten into this?
If you had never gotten into this.
Well, I was an actuary very briefly. I was a math guy back in school, and I would imagine I would have wound up doing something in math. Now, whether that would have been a math teacher or an investment advisor, or I don't know, but it would have been something with numbers. Numbers are one of the few areas in my life where I feel comfortable and a little bit competent. So I would have gone back. Had this not worked out after my undergrad, I was going to go back and get an MBA. And so I think I could have done something maybe in the financial world, something like that.
Okay, so a numbers guy, that means when we used to get newspapers and once a week we'd get a full page of stats in our newspapers, Is that what got you into sports, seeing that? Because that was the day where I'm like,
Yeah.
I got all day to decipher all of this.
That was the day. And I can't remember if it was I think it was Sundays in the paper that we got when I was a kid. And you're right, it would have American League, National League, and it would just literally have like the top 50 guys by batting average. And it would just have like at bats, runs, hits, RBIs, average. That was it. And it would have the standings. And I was just as into like the hockey standings. I mean, you would, like the OUAA, as it was known back then. Like I was reading every bit of standings on every sport that I could. I would say the big four: football, basketball, baseball, hockey, in whatever order you want to put them in. So yeah, anything to do with numbers and points and tiebreakers and batting averages and ERAs and things like that, I was really into. I don't think it's why I became a sports fan. I mean, from what I remember and what I know from what my parents, told me, I mean, as soon as I could walk and sit in front of a television back in those, late 60s, early 70s, I was watching everything I could watch. I was collecting hockey cards. My dad used to tell a story that once in a while we'd go to a Leafs game and he would say, I would take my hockey cards down and like there would be Ron Ellis and I'd be looking at the card and then looking at Ron Ellis skating and memorizing the stats and that sort of thing. But I think the numbers are one of the things that, one of the reasons why in particular I fell in love with baseball. When I was a kid, there's an obvious connection between baseball and numbers, much more now than there was when I fell in love with it back in the 70s. But, I was one of those kids who was playing Stratomatic baseball all the time and keeping stats. I was the commissioner and the manager of all 4 teams in the league. We didn't live near any of my friends, and you couldn't do this online back then. So I was the whole league, but keeping stats and very meticulous about charting them, and they had to be right. And it's I'd say it's a small part of the reason that I'm a sports fan. And it still helps me out a little bit every now and again.
You mentioned Maple Leaf Gardens, and it brought me back thinking. So you went with your father when you were young, and I still tried to relive the feeling, and I can't capture it anymore. And you've seen many more ballparks than I have, or hockey arenas. But remember when you walked into Maple Leaf Gardens, or you walked into Exhibition Stadium, or you walked into the Dome, and you're walking along the concourse, and then you get the glimpse of the field or the ice, where you're like, "Oh my God, it's real."
Yeah, I say this to everybody. I think if you were to ask me, pick one random, unbelievably happy memory from your childhood, it would be it's 2 parts of the same thing. It's my dad and me coming up the stairs at College Station on Carlton. You know what I mean? So now you come up the stairs and there's the gardens right there, and there are a million people around, and you're just walking down Carlton to go to whatever door you're supposed to go in. And then, as you said, you walk inside the building, and as a kid, I know I was immediately drawn. There were huge pictures on the wall, and it might be Bill Barilko, or it might be Tim Horton, or Bobby Bond, or King Clancy, doesn't matter, and mesmerized by those. But it's funny you said what you did, because the moment was that first moment where you were going to whatever section you were in, and you just walked up the little tunnel, because you could, you didn't see it until you were right there and seeing the ice. And we used to get there early because I used to make my dad get there early, so nobody was on. It was probably not even first warm-up yet. But, yes, that first moment of seeing the ice or seeing the green grass at a ballpark. I'm a sucker for ballparks, I got to tell you, because unlike NBA/NHL arenas, they're all different. They're all unique, and they're all special in their own way, except for we'll leave that, except for a couple that aren't. But almost all of them are very special in their own way. And seeing the green grass and, looking at all the nooks and crannies on the wall. And
how everything's perfect.
Everything's perfect.
Because
on the
it
right
hasn't
day,
been touched yet.
Hasn't been touched. You can smell the grass, right?
Yeah.
And it's great. That's part of the allure for me. I do love ballparks. I get a lot of enjoyment out of. And listen, I've been, maybe not as much now. I'm much older and have done this for a million years. But I remember took a couple of trips with buddies of mine. When we were in university or just out of school, and you had a little bit of free time. 6 of us would go on a 4-day trip and go see games in 4 different cities. Like, you can't have more fun than that.
Dan, we share the same first name. We're both broadcasters. We both share that feeling about seeing the field. And I know one more thing that we agree on, because when you came on the Jan Dan podcast, I found out that your favorite Jays team is my favorite Jays team, the 1985 Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah. I know they won the series in 92, 93, but my favorite, I'll lump it together into 3 years, 83, 84, 85. So they're born in 77. They don't hit 500 until they're 83 and until 1983. And then it's unbelievably exciting. Like the novelty of an expansion franchise. Hey, we got baseball. That had kind of worn off. And now it's time to win. And when you get to 83, 84, 85, now it's Bell and Mosby and Barfield and Mullenix and Orge and Fernandez and Garcia and Upshaw and Witt and Martinez and Steve and Leal and Clancy and Gott and Key and great teams, and I could name a few more too. And just super fun, athletic, exciting teams. The vast majority of them had come up through the system, which is something we don't see as much anymore. And now it's, holy cow, they're going toe-to-toe with Ripken and Murray and the Orioles, or they're going toe-to-toe with the Tigers in 84, although the Tigers were incredible. And now they're winning the division in 85, and they're in the playoffs against George Brett and the Royals, and it didn't end as well as we would have liked to have. It ended in 1985. But yeah, those 3 years, 83, 84, 85, to me were unbelievably exciting. So I would have been 16, 17, 18 years old. So still kind of a kid, and obviously no idea that my future lay in broadcasting or anything like that. But, still taking the bus to the subway, to the streetcar, to the X. That's, and if you know what that means, you know what that means. And if you don't, I can't help you. But it was the bus to the subway, to the streetcar, to the X, and watching doubleheaders on Sundays sometimes. And it was a tremendously fun time. So I would have been in high school, right? And huge sports fan. And, just going downtown and watching games with your buddies. Again, what's more fun than that? And when they got good, that was tremendously exciting. It's like how I felt about the Leafs earlier in life in the Sittler, McDonald, Salming era, right? So, when they're good and they're trying to duke it out with the Flyers or beat the Canadians, and eventually they beat the Islanders in that one playoff series, this is exciting stuff. So, and I have tremendously fond memories of it, even though, and I hate saying this out loud, it's 40 years ago now.
And maybe it wasn't, it was definitely a different time, because the photo of George Bell catching the ball in left, dropping to his knees, and seeing the emotion and the reaction, you don't get that kind of reaction from players now. That was raw, and that was guys playing the game because they loved it.
Yeah. And now there are 15 teams in each league and 6 make the playoffs. Then there were 14 teams in each league and 2 made the playoffs. And the American League East was the American League East. It's been the toughest division in baseball more often than it hasn't been. And they were competing with the Yankees and the Red Sox. And the Brewers were in the division, and they were great. And the Orioles were great. And the Tigers were great. I mean, it was a really, really tough division. So I think some people still thought of the Blue Jays as, yeah, they're good and they're getting better and they're young and they're athletic, but can they win the big one? Can they win when it matters? And ultimately, it took them until 92 to win the biggest of the big ones. But 85 was great. And I know I thought in 85, they're going to do this a lot. And then they didn't in 86, 87, or 88. It took them until 89 to get back into the postseason. But there was something about that group of players. Again, I think we really felt like we knew them because we had gotten to know them when they were very young, when they had come up through the system. And obviously we didn't have the internet. We weren't watching videos of them as much, but we were reading all about them, and we knew their names by the time they got to Toronto, and they were young and they were ours. And it was a very fun time to be following baseball in this city.
Did you latch on to a J that wasn't a big name guy like I did? I latched on to Garth Orge. Did you latch on to like Alexis Infante or anyone?
The 2 I'll mention, Willie Upshaw was my favorite.
Oh man, yeah, what a legend.
Yeah, he was great, and I got to know him a little bit later on. He coached with the Giants when I was broadcasting, so I don't know why. I think part of it was, and I never played anything beyond Little League, but I played first base because I'm big, slow, and left-handed. Willie was not big, slow, and left-handed. I was big, slow, and left-handed, so I had to play first base, so they wouldn't let me on the field. Maybe because he was a first baseman, And I think I also like he was quiet. He didn't draw attention to himself at all. And I think I really like that. The other guy, if you want to pick somebody who wasn't a quote star, and like I'll say this, I loved Tony Fernandez. Loved watching Tony Fernandez play.
Everything
but another
was
guy that I
effortless.
kind of latched onto back then would have been Rance Mulliniks. I thought Rance was great. I mean, you want to talk about a professional at bat, a guy you could count on in the clutch, would come off the bench if he wasn't starting. Got to move a runner, hit a fly ball. And then he'd knock one in the gap every now and again. And he was
But when Rance played, my guy couldn't play.
That's right. My guy and your guy split time, but Rance got.
So I grew up disliking Rance because I'm like, Rance is playing today, and then I found out that they were actually really good friends.
Really good friends, yeah. So, but yeah, platooning was one of the secrets of that team, right? Ernie Wittenbach Martinez did it behind the plate too. So, I thought Rance was really cool. He had the big round glasses on, and got to know Rance in later years. And in fact, a couple of years ago, when the Blue Jays were in, I want to say Anaheim, I think. So he did a little broadcasting years ago, not with me. I wasn't. That's when I was full time at ESPN. I wasn't doing the Jays, but he knew all the guys on our crew. So he came out and joined us for a couple of beers after a game one night. He and his wife joined us, and we had the best time. He and I just happened to sit beside each other, and we had met a couple of times. We ended up talking for like an hour, and it was great. So, it's funny. I'm not a young man, but the guys you watched when you're a kid, they're still your guys. You know what I mean? Like if I walk into, and I haven't seen him in years, but if I walk into a room and Darryl Sittler's there, I'm going to be tongue-tied. It's just the way I am, because he was the captain of the team I loved the most when I was 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. And that doesn't change as you get older, in my opinion.
You latch onto that guy and they're your guy for life. We should talk about the current Jays. They're hovering around 500. Is this going to be the case for the entire year? In your crystal ball, what does it tell us?
My crystal ball says they can be better. They can do better. They could be a playoff team. But here comes the but. A number of things. They've got to have positive outcomes. Like, is Anthony Santander going to start looking like the guy that he's been in recent years with Baltimore? Are the 4th and 5th spots in the rotation going to be okay? Are they going to stabilize? Let's take a guy like Addison Barger, because you see it in glimpses. Wow, this guy can be a force. But can he uptick the consistency there? So it happens a little bit more often. There are a number of things. And Barger's doing well. I don't want to say he's not, but you can see the talent is obvious, and you can see that he's this close to really breaking out. So I don't know what to tell you, because I could see 75 wins and I could see 87 wins. I can see both here. They've had a tough schedule for the most part. It doesn't seem to get easier for a while. As you and I speak, they're playing the A's right now. They've got the White Sox in June, and then again in July. And then they've got teams like the Pirates and the Rockies and the Marlins, but not till August. And that's after the trade deadline. So they got to keep their heads above water and hang around long enough to convince the front office that they've got a chance here and not break it up at the trade deadline. The best thing they got going for them right now is not a lot of teams in the American League are breaking away. I mean, as you and I talked, they're like 3 games out of a playoff spot, even though they're only 500. So I think there is room for improvement, but they're going to need most of the guys on the team to be closer to the best version of themselves than anything else.
They all need to look at Varsho and say, let's be like him.
He's amazing. And I know it's bugging him. He's striking out and he's not hitting for as high of an average as he would like, but when he hits it as hard as anybody. Phenomenal center fielder, maybe the most popular guy in that clubhouse. Absolutely beloved as a person and a teammate in that clubhouse. And we'll see, like little things here and there. There have been some good stories, like who knew that Braden Fisher and Mason Fluharty would have the years that they've been having. And Jonathan Clase, to me, is interesting. And we'll see. Like, there's enough there for them to compete. Like, what are we talking about? We're talking about them competing with the Red Sox, the Rays, the Twins, the Royals, the Astros. They should be able to do that. Whether they're good enough to be one of the 3 wild cards, I don't know, but they're certainly good enough to be in the thick of it.
Real quick on Aaron Judge. Is there anyone as dynamic as him in the American League? Because I still can't get over the shot when he was standing on first base next to Vladdy Guerrero Jr. when the Jays played the Yankees. It put in perspective, this man is a monster. So to watch him in person, what's that like?
He's basically LeBron size, by the way. So LeBron is like, kind of sort of, but LeBron's 6'8", 260, I think. And Judge is listed at 6'7", 282, I believe. So
that's insane. That's an insane size of a human.
An insane size of a human. It really is. And an insane size of a human to, at the age of 33, be the best version of himself. We know a lot of guys who are 33 who are not as good as they were when they were 28. And he's the best version of himself right now. I mean, I don't think he's going to hit 400, but it doesn't matter. He's incredible and remarkable and the dominant force in the game. And it would be a lot easier for Blue Jays fans if he was on a team other than the Yankees, I think. But it is impressive. You know, he's so strong that he can sometimes not put a perfect swing on it, miss hit the ball a little bit, and still hit it out because he is that strong. But it's not just strength that makes him a great player. If you swing and miss all the time, it doesn't matter how strong you are. So I give him a ton of credit. He didn't get up to the big leagues till he was like 26, I don't think. So it's not like he was a surefire thing, and a lot of other teams could have drafted him before the Yankees did. I think he was a late first rounder, if I'm not mistaken, like mid to late 20s. I might be wrong there, but I think so. And it's impressive. You know, if you said to me, who are the best players you've ever seen, Ken Griffey Jr. comes to mind. Obviously, Shohei Ohtani comes to mind, obviously. But Aaron Judge has to be in that conversation. And this year that he is having might be the best year that I can think of that anybody's had in my lifetime if he keeps going like this.
Judge and Ohtani, a palpable buzz when they come to the plate. Anyone else in that category currently? Just those two? Because you witness it, you would see it and feel it.
Yeah, I would say just those two. I mean, I've broadcast through the Bonds and McGuire and Sosa, and obviously that's a complicated era for us to talk about. I mean, when Vladdy's really cooking, Vladdy's got a little of that, but I don't think at the same level that Ohtani and Judge do. Soto at times has some of that, but I think Ohtani and Judge are in a category all to themselves.
You know who's in a category all to themselves? That's you, my friend. Danny Shulman. Danny boy.
Don't I sound 7 years old all of a sudden?
Yeah. It hurts for Danny Jansen.
That's true. I should talk to him about that. Yeah, it does work for him.
And just don't call him Dano. Dan, thanks for this, my friend.
You got it. Have a good one.
Thanks for watching Toronto Sports Rush on the Bet Rivers Network.